Most anticipated games of E3 2012 is certainly an understatement. Here to join me for an exclusive demo of the game is Paul Sage, game director. Thanks for joining us, Paul, and we're going to dive right into gameplay because we're so excited to see this. Tell us about the project.
So basically, the Elder Scrolls Online has been a franchise people have been familiar with for 20 years, and now you get to play it online. You get to play it with your friends, you get to play it with strangers. From the ground up, we've made it just so it's incredibly accessible, right? So you get in, we want to make sure that you can group very easily with people, so it's going to be one of the most accessible as far as socially. We have a lot of features planned. They're going to make it so you get together with your friends. Maybe you see them in the game, or maybe you see them offline and you say, hey, I want to go play Elder Scrolls Online. So that's going to be one of the big hallmarks. So here you'll see Daggerfall, which is something you haven't actually seen in 20 years, right? So this is, it's got a very rich, deep lore. And this is, as you can see the art style. So the art style is this. It's incredible. It spans all the cultures.
Yeah, I mean, it's so big. I mean, obviously, you had a lot of decisions to make in terms of the art style. How are we going to represent this in MMO form? The locations, places that you've talked about already, like Skyrim and Daggerfall and things like that. Where are we going to be able to go, and how are we going to be able to explore as well?
So you will be able to start off in any one of 3 factions. So we have factions set up for the players. You can start off in the Northeast, where you might be familiar with Morrowind. You can start off in the Daggerfall Covenant, which is in the northwest of Tamriel, or you can start off in the south. You can play a faction that's the All-Merry Dominion that was mentioned in Skyrim, and they're kind of bent on taking over the continent.
Right. So why was this the right time, Paul, to launch an Elder Scrolls MMO? Obviously, it's a very big space. It's a very competitive space. You have a great IP, but a lot of gamers, when it was first announced, they said, hey, I love my Elder Scrolls. It's a single-player experience. That's what's different. Why is this the right time for an MMO?
I think it's just a matter of, it's just got to be a great game. It's got to be a great RPG. But there were a lot of people, myself included, who are saying, I want to play this online. I want to play it with a bunch of other people. When you take things to the next level, you get other people in, you can see like the world actually changes, not just because of the changes that the development team makes, but other players bring to it. So it's really dynamic feeling. It's a great game.
Okay, and talk a little bit about the gameplay mechanics. Obviously, people kind of go into MMOs knowing what to expect, but we've seen recent titles like SWTOR and upcoming Guild Wars 2. They're looking to mix things up. What can we expect on the gameplay front that's going to make this an innovative player?
So one of the things that we've really worked hard to do was make sure that we take away a lot of the interface from the game and have you concentrate and look into the world. And so the reason we built it that way is so combat is very real-time feeling. So it feels like it's reactive, it's active. As a player, you're blocking, you're using your health, stamina, and magicka stats to really affect combat. And so when players team up, they're not just teaming up and pressing buttons over again, but they're really reacting to what's going on in the world.
Obviously, a very story-driven world here we're talking about with Elder Scrolls. I mean, the amount of depth that you have to work with is phenomenal. How are you distilling all that down to an accessible experience as well?
Well, one of the things that's really great about it is the fact that you get to go in and you get to experience the quests the way you want to experience them. So you don't have to go on to a quest path. You can wander around the world. We'll actually have quests that come to you. So you'll see an NPC run over the hill. They'll grant you the quest. So you explore basically just how you want to explore. You play the game the way you want to play the game, essentially. And you're not on rails at all. It's a great open exploration.
In development for 5 years, that's a long time, and in that time, the MMO landscape has changed quite a bit. Have there been things that have influenced design throughout the process to kind of make it more innovative as we're getting closer to launch?
Absolutely. So one of the things that's really telling is that when we looked at how we wanted to explore the world originally, it was more of a directed vector through the world. And we said, that's not what Elder Scrolls is about. So we added elements like the compass back in from the single-player games that everybody knows. And the compass really directs you to content. And so, again, you're free to explore. And that's one of the things that really isn't out in the market right now for MMOs, and it makes it great.
It definitely looks like the world of Elder Scrolls. How are you classifying the art style? I mean, it's not too cartoony, it's not too realistic. How do you classify it internally?
Well, I think it's the art style. Number one, it's going to allow 200 players in the game at the same time, fighting these huge epic battles. And so for me, the art style allows that while at the same time remaining, it looks gorgeous, right? So it's fantastic.
All right, Paul, I have so many questions, but I'm not the only one with questions. We're going to head over to Justine right now, who has a few questions for you from our fans on Facebook and Twitter. Justine, what do you got?
Oh, we have some interesting tweets, of course, as always. Here is one. It's I want to mount a dragon and fly over Tamarill. Can you make a girl's dreams come true? This didn't come from me. This was not my question.
Well, that's really interesting. So we don't have, the time period we're set in the second era of Tamriel, and there's no dragons actually active at this time. So we won't have dragons because we're staying true to the lore.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, we have some other ones too. You guys talked about the art style. Mia Culpepper is saying it feels like it's a little departure from Skyrim.
Yeah, it is a slight departure from Skyrim, and the reason it is because we have so many cultures. It spans all over, the continent of Tamriel. There's the Morrowind, the Dark Elves, and the High Elves, and you have to blend all of those different cultures together. And so the art style is really a mix. Just like every Elder Scrolls game has been different, we are no different from that.
Yeah, no, it looks great. All right, we have one more question here. Are Redguard considered Nedic men? Like Nords or Imperials?
So Redguard actually are not Nedic men in that way, I don't believe. They actually came over to the continent of Tamriel, almost like I think they call it a regatta, that when they came over to Tamriel. So they're actually more or less imports and not the original people from the land.
Well, thank you so much. Everyone on Twitter is super excited. Remember, you guys can also download